Hey, do you have a communist party whose life you'd like to invigorate? Well, then this recording's for you. Welcome to Socialism for All. This file's being recorded for the July 2025 edition of Socialism for All, and it's an audiobook of Invigoration of the Life of the Party by Enver Hoxha from 1966. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe, and consider supporting on Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee at patreon.com/socialismforall or buymeacoffee.com/socialismforall. You can find links to Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee in the video description. And a shout out to our sponsor today, Air. Air. You're breathing it now. Okay, so there's a link to the text in the video description as usual. This one is put out by the American Party of Labor, whose recommended reading list we have. If you go to the home tab at Socialism for All on YouTube and then just scroll down a little bit, you'll see some recommended reading lists. And the APLs is one of the ones that we are recording for the channel. So Enver Hoxha was the leader of the Party of Labor of Albania, and he became known in the latter half of the 20th century for being an outspoken critic of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union under Khrushchev when some petty bourgeois deviations started to show up. Hoxha continued to criticize the CPSU under Brezhnev when the party claimed to be undergoing rectification, although critics differed on that. Now, not everybody agrees with all of the criticisms that were made during what was really the beginning of the Sino-Soviet split. We have a playlist on that on the channel. This was a rift between China in particular and the Soviet Union beginning in the 1950s. And of course, Hoxha took the side of China because he saw a lot of things going on, whether it was with Yugoslavia, which was geographically near to Albania and they were having some problems, or the CPSU's position on some of the Western European communist parties. Hoxha wrote a number of books on all of these topics, whether it was the Titoites, the Brezhnevites, the Khrushchevites, the Eurocommunists, or later the Dungists. As I said, not everybody agrees, but I think that when people look for answers on what happened in the quote-unquote fall of communism starting in 1989, there's a lot of answers to be found in these anti-revisionist critiques, which are from a Marxist-Leninist point of view. And I would encourage any serious student of communism to get more familiar with those. In any case, this reading, like the previous reading that we did from Hoxha a few weeks ago, is actually more about how to run a communist party rather than criticizing a particular communist party. Its subtitle is Orientations for the Basic Organizations of the Party, and it's dated February 2nd, 1966. We'll begin with the American Party of Labor's preface. Quote, "We may take it as the rule that as long as the Bolsheviks maintain connection with the broad masses of the people, they will be invincible. And on the contrary, as soon as the Bolsheviks become severed from the masses and lose their connection with them, as soon as they become covered with bureaucratic rust, they will lose all their strength and become a mere squib." That's quoting from Stalin, speech in reply to a debate, 1st of April 1937. The following work addresses the core principles which underlie a principled Marxist-Leninist Communist Party. From the basic organizational structures, methods, theories, and practice of scientific socialism to the execution of tasks of the party in its leadership and education of the masses, that the vanguard party will triumph over and prevent sectarian, bureaucratic, technocratic, and other harmful tendencies which may, however unwillingly or innocently at first, eventually lead to revisionism, dysfunction, and irrelevance in the class war. This work stresses the foundational importance of practical and educational work amongst the masses, listening to and respecting their opinions, and the reciprocal shaping and strengthening of Marxist-Leninist anti-revisionist theory in response to practical and educational activity as essential to the progress of socialist revolution and the construction of socialist society. And commenting, just a note for any real beginners listening to this text, if you're not familiar with revisionism in the context of Marxism, this is when bourgeois or capitalist ideas, particularly anti-revolutionary ideas, take hold and find expression within the communist vanguard. So you start hearing supposed communists espousing more of a reformist or social democratic type of line. Marx and Engels fought against this in their day, and Lenin produced an enormous amount of work of contemporaries of his who were supposed Marxists, but who in practice demonstrated horrendous revisionist leadership that had disastrous consequences for the movement for socialism. Karl Kautsky being a prime example, who as the head of the Second Socialist International basically endorsed World War I, betraying and selling out the working class movements of Europe, and leading them to kill each other for the capitalists' benefit, instead of trying to turn that inter-imperialist war into a civil war for revolution, a war against the imperialists. We actually might be living under socialism today had that happened. Another good example is Reform or Revolution by Rosa Luxemburg, in which she critiques at length a notorious revisionist, Edward Bernstein. Anyway, back to the text, and we pick up with Enver Hoxha's preface. The very lively debates which took place in the party and among the people during the discussion of the call of the Central Committee of the PLA, Party of Labour of Albania, and the Council of Ministers, issued on October 23, 1965, for drawing the people's masses in the discussion and drafting of the fourth five-year plan of the development of the economy and culture during 1966 to 1970, as well as the decision of the Political Bureau of the CC of the party on the struggle against bureaucracy for a revolutionary style and method of work, December 1965, demonstrate the correctness of these historic decisions and the maturity of our party, which, at the proper moment, was able to seize on that link which would further revolutionize all the work. They are incontestable evidence of that healthy Marxist-Leninist force which the Party of Labour of Albania represents. The Communists and the whole people supported the Central Committee and our party in this very important undertaking with all their might. This is fresh evidence of those close bonds which exist between the party and the people, of that unshakable trust which they have in each other, and of the lofty patriotism of our heroic people. Introduction. The Political Bureau considers that the main problem today, in order to respond to this great revolutionary enthusiasm of the masses for carrying out the major tasks with which we're faced, is the strengthening and invigoration of the basic organizations of the party. Chapter 1. The basic organizations of the party should assume the full leadership of every aspect of life in the sectors in which they operate. For the party to perform its role of the organized vanguard detachment of the working class, as the force inspiring and leading the whole life of the country, it is essential that the basic organization, as its solid foundation, fully plays its role in the enterprise, cooperative, village, military detachment, administration, and everywhere else. This means that the fate of the enterprise, cooperative, detachment, etc., is in the hands not of one person, but of the basic organization as a whole. To this end, the following matters must be made very clear. 1. In any collective, what determines whether affairs run smoothly is the level of the ideological, political, organizational, and mobilizing work of the basic organization of the party. Without underrating the very great importance which the cadres have for the party, it is not the secretary, the director, the chairman, or the commander who is the reflection of the work in a cooperative, economic enterprise, school, military detachment, or elsewhere, but mainly the basic organization of the party. It is always the careful work of the party which has raised our cadres from the ranks of the masses. The task of the basic organization of the party is not just to support the orders of the director, the chair, or the commander. It is the organization of the party that guides all the work, that decides what must be done by the communists and all the working people to carry the work forward, what tasks must be fulfilled, how to defeat the enemy in war, etc., and on the basis of this, each individual must carry out the duties entrusted to them. All the organs, organizations, or other bodies are levers of the party. As such, they must work to put into practice the line, decisions, and the correct orientations of the party without deviating in the slightest from all the requirements of the democratic centralism of the state and other organizations of the masses. There is no problem in which the basic organization of the party is not interested, but it cannot carry out all the work on its own. It has to guide and should stand in such a position that it has a broad view of all the work. The basic organization must fight against sectarianism, against any attempt to monopolize affairs. Sectarianism inhibits the initiative of the cadres and the masses, weakens and shrivels the party. The basic organizations of the party must continually enhance their ability to set everything necessary in motion, so that its members and levers and all the working people perform their tasks fully with the highest sense of responsibility. While working to develop the initiative and enhance the responsibility of cadres and various organs, the basic organizations of the party must not permit localist or departmentalist tendencies, or manifestations of technocracy, which are other manifestations of the bureaucratic pressure on the party. Not rigid forms, but the ideological, political, organizational, and technical uplift of the basic organizations of the party must constitute the main concern of the organizations of the party today. 2. Any manifestation of lack of confidence in the basic organizations of the party and of tutelage over them, any method of compulsion and rigid administration which inhibit their initiative should be combated. Instead of these, there should be qualified assistance and control, which will open broad horizons for activity to the basic organizations, the party members, and the working masses. Those problems which it is up to the basic organization to decide on and solve should be left to it to decide and solve. Particular care must be shown to assist the basic organizations in the countryside where the tasks are more difficult. A. The dictation from above of agendas for the meetings of the basic organizations through various decisions, instructions, and orders, for example, political information, must be done once a month. The problem of dues should be examined once in 3 months, the problems of livestock farming should be examined once in 6 months, etc., is a harmful practice which should be ended. B. The initiative and responsibility of the basic organizations of the party should be extensively developed, especially in the work for the analysis and the creative application of directives and orientations of the party. The basic organizations of the party must react immediately when various decisions, orders, or instructions run counter to the line of the party, to its correct policy and the interests of the people. The party has no interests other than those of the people. Therefore, anything contrary to these interests is at the same time contrary to the line of the party. During the discussions which have been held in the party and among the people about the struggle against bureaucracy and for the improvement of the method and style of work, it emerged clearly that the basic organizations have not been thoroughly on guard against bureaucratic distortions. This must be made a good lesson. Democratic centralism requires that we raise our voice loudly through party channels against any distortion of the Marxist-Leninist line of our party. 3. Above all, our party is the leader, organizer, educator, advisor, and inspirer of the working masses, and it exists and fights in order to defend their interests. The basic organizations of the party and every communist must devote all their main activity to practical work for the education and mobilization of people, listening to and respecting their opinions. There ought to be no problem which is discussed in the basic organization of the party in which the opinion of the masses, of those most interested in carrying out the tasks which the basic organization sets, is not stressed. Likewise, there ought to be no decision, task, or orientation which does not respond to the concern of the masses and the solution of their demands. It should become the rule that after the meeting of the basic organizations, the workers are informed about the matters which are of interest to them, and the most suitable means and forms for carrying out the decision should be found together with the workers. From time to time, when the need arises, open meetings of the basic organization should be held too. They should play an important role in the education and mobilization of the working people, and in the strengthening of links with them. The ability and strength of the organizations of the party, the people's state power, and our dictatorship of the proletariat will be more and more enhanced from their links with the masses. On the contrary, any action or stand which weakens these links at the same time weakens our party and state power. Any replacement of the method of conviction with orders, dictate, and arrogance must be sternly condemned. No one can be convinced by such methods. Some weakling might be intimidated temporarily, but the party and the people, never. The party member must wage the class struggle basing themselves on the fundamental principles of Marxism-Leninism, on the correct line of the party, while relying on the masses. They must be capable of distinguishing, after a full analysis, the good from the bad, the dangerous from the less dangerous, and of using the most appropriate method in their work with people. Chapter 2. The most important requirement for enhancing the role of the basic organization of the party is the complete activation of all the communists. 1. In order to enhance the sense of responsibility and increase the activity of each communist, we must eliminate the sectarianism and formalism which we have in the activation of communists and move toward a redivision of duties in all the basic organizations of the party. We should act as Lenin teaches us. Along with the sound centralization in the organization of the party, we should decentralize the responsibility of each individual member of the party, a decentralization which is nothing but the division of duties amongst party members. Such a decentralization is an essential condition for revolutionary centralism. A. No party member should be left out of the activity of the basic organization of the party. The communist must not be in any way indifferent to any problem of the party and the people. A narrow view of the work allocated, personal interest, efforts to settle into some comfortable corner are alien to the communists. Wherever a communist works, they ought to be in the role of the vanguard fighter struggling to apply the line of the party and be answerable for its work. At the same time, the party member must be an outstanding political and social activist. From all its features, voluntary social work is purely communist work. Anyone who is not at the level to assume such a duty cannot be a party member. The sectarianism which is displayed in charging communists with tasks, their division into capable and incapable, has no basis. It is evidence of the subjectivity and lack of ability of the leaders of the basic organization themselves. B. The division of duties amongst members of the party should not be standardized, but should be done closely linked with the conditions of the work, with the new requirements. Apart from the division of work we already have in the basic organizations, in the organizations of sectors and their bureaus, the communists can also be charged individually or in groups, in conformity with their abilities and qualities, with responsibility for problems which concern the organization. For example, in regard to planning, problems of finance, discipline, emulation, technical work, savings, the collection of manure, etc., etc. At the same time, the communists are political leaders first of all. Therefore, they must be charged to work with a given mass of citizens or workers so that no working man or woman in town or countryside is left without living contact with the party, without being nurtured with its teachings. The communists charged with this work, as well as those who are charged to work with the people's councils, the organizations of the masses, etc., are responsible to the basic organization of the party to which they must report regularly on the tasks set to them. The communist must not reduce their role simply to seeing whether or not this course of education is run or this organization of the masses holds its meetings. They have no more rights than the others, can take no party or state measures against anyone, but it is their duty to see that the work with which they're charged goes well, that the people are educated, and a healthy party spirit prevails everywhere. C. As well as this, the division of party forces is not unchangeable. In no way should the communist feel themselves in this or that position fortuitously, but should feel themselves a militant member of that centralized organism of the party which includes all aspects of the life of the country. The organizations of the party should make a more correct redistribution of communists, not where the task is easier, but where they are needed, on the main front of production, so that the hand of the party is felt, its voice, line, and advice are heard everywhere, in all the sectors, links, and organisms. D. The bureaus of the basic organizations of the party should become real organizing nuclei for the activation of the communists. They must organize and divide the work well amongst their members, and on this basis ensure the activation of all members of the party and the necessary aid and control. This division should be applied also by the committees of the party, which can call the members of bureaus of the basic organizations of the party to meetings, seminars, meetings of activists, etc. on given questions. 2. One of the ugliest and most dangerous manifestations of bureaucracy and sectarianism which has weakened the militant spirit of communists and basic organizations is the fact that sometimes criticism and self-criticism within the party are not at the proper level. Such manifestations must be condemned with the greatest severity. Each communist must examine themselves in this direction and immediately put themselves in order to use the weapon of criticism and self-criticism correctly, without hesitation or restriction. The organizations of the party are nests of revolutionaries, which should be seething with vigorous life and in which the communists should temper and educate themselves. The communists should express their opinions freely in the organization, because in this way they act correctly, behave honestly toward the party, assist themselves and their comrades, and when their opinions are not right, they will be corrected. The steel unity of the communists is forged in the basic organization, not only in regard to the general line of the party, but also in regard to all the problems which are raised and decided there. Without the clash of opinions, without drawing all the members of the organization into this struggle, there cannot be a single steel unity of opinion and action. From this viewpoint, the rights of the party member must be defended as sacred, and the basic organizations must defend all those who criticize fairly and severely. The strengthening of convictions in the party is also an essential requirement of discipline, of that conscious steel discipline without which the party cannot exist and there can be no activity and life for the communists. Especially in the conditions of our country, surrounded by imperialist and revisionist enemies, in the conditions when the party is always in a state of war, the continuous strengthening and tempering of conscious discipline is a daily necessity which makes the party invincible. 3. The organs and organizations of the party must direct the activation of the communists from close at hand, teach them how to work so that they can proceed properly on the road of the party, and are educated concretely through the struggle with difficulties and the victories which are achieved. The organizations of the party should educate and temper the communists through the issues which emerge from life, from the daily struggle and experience of the party and the people. Special work must be done with the communists of the countryside. Horizons of concrete work, knowledge, and activity should be open to them and their initiative developed. The communists must use their own brains about everything, on the basis of the line of the party, and its orientations and the decisions of the basic organizations of the party. They themselves should organize the political work which they have to do with the masses on each problem in the forms most suitable for their conditions, and should not wait for lectures or orders to be sent from above. It should be well kept in mind that just giving orders is the easiest thing, but there are many intrinsic evils in this. Among those who act in this way, the idea is created that they have been born to dictate to others. This gives rise to conceit, a feeling of superiority, and develops arrogance, all of which are alien to the line of our party and are to be condemned. Amongst those who receive orders and directives, this harmful method creates the habit of issuing orders and directives themselves. Thus a rotten, bureaucratic, vicious circle is created. One stratum which issues orders and another stratum which has to apply them. A stern and merciless struggle must be waged by the basic organizations of the party against such views and actions, because sometimes they begin unwittingly, innocently, but if they're not combated, they become a very dangerous line. Such a method of work stops people thinking with their own brains, makes them inert, cowardly, and servile in front of their superiors, stops the member of the party from using their own brains and reflecting deeply. As a result, people lose the initiative that is so necessary. Their valuable proposals are scorned, and in such cases there can be no talk of Marxist-Leninist criticism or self-criticism. We must enhance the vigilance of the communists, their militant spirit, to clean away the above-mentioned alien manifestations as soon as they crop up. Our revolutionary vigilance must not be an empty formula which is prated day in and day out to no purpose. No, it must be developed in all directions to defend everything sound in the party and in our country, and to uncover and eradicate everything evil. This will be achieved only where the work of the party is carried out on a revolutionary mass scale, where the communists and the people get right down to the essence of problems, that is to say, both the good aspects and the bad, and work, think, and fight on the basis of the line of the party as its genuine fighters. No party member must ever forget this. 4. We must put fully into practice the well-known teaching of the party to make the basic organizations the most important centers of the education and tempering of the communists. The education of communists is primarily the task of the basic organizations of the party. They are the places where the linking of theory with practice is embodied best. In this way, that formalism and dogmatism which we have in our ideo-political work will be combated more successfully. We should examine all the problems we discuss and every measure we take from the standpoint of the general line of the party, should always analyze their ideological and political content, and in this way disclose their roots. We should always proceed only from correct principled positions, from the general interest, from the great objectives of our party, the construction of socialism and communism, the defense of the victories of our people, the defense of the socialist homeland. Whenever it is considered necessary, problems which have to do with the education and tempering of communists, with their vanguard role, linked closely with the life of the organizations and the communists, should be discussed in the meetings of the basic organizations of the party. Chapter 3. We should combat the narrow sectarian concept of forms of the structure of the party and sterile official formality in the meetings of the basic organizations. We should always remember that the organizational forms and norms have their basis in life, and they demonstrate their vitality in life. Responding to its demands, they should be enriched and, if need be, altered. One cannot stand still in life. One must advance or otherwise fall behind. Real relations, teaches V.I. Lenin, are not something inanimate. They are alive, and they develop. Juridical definitions can respond to the progressive development of these relations, but if these definitions are bad, they can also respond to regression or stagnation. Life requires that we make the basic organizations of the party more responsive and swift-acting in their structure and work, get rid of unnecessary forms and links, and apply those forms which strengthen the work of the party. This is of great importance in principle and practice. 1. We must fight harder to further enliven the basic organizations of the party. Not their form, but their content should be our main concern. In this direction, we must completely change our method and requirements. The things that determine the content and the success of the work of the basic organizations of the party are neither the place of the meeting, its empty solemnity, nor the written reports. The result of holding meetings should be measured with their thorough examination of urgent problems, with their drawing all the members of the party into the solution of the problems, with the working out of measures which lead to the solution of the problems, and finally, with the complete application of these measures. All members must prepare themselves seriously for the meetings of the basic organization of the party. This is the main thing. The method of the preparation and the examination of the problem may vary. The report may be complete in writing or with notes, perhaps only the draft of measures which should be taken is presented. Unscheduled meetings can be held for matters that cannot wait, or questions not on the agenda can be raised for discussion. The implementation of decisions or other matters can be examined. The party organization must settle these matters itself, just as it must settle the method of holding the meeting, the way it is run, etc. The important thing is the content of the analysis, and especially the conclusion. 3/4 of the proceedings of the meetings of the basic organization of the party should be occupied with working out, discussing, and checking up on measures which must be taken to solve problems. The decision ought to be the synthesis of all the proceedings, of the threshing out of opinions and the proposals made in the meetings. The proceedings of meetings of the basic organization should not be pushed through hastily, but neither should they be dragged out unnecessarily. They may last half an hour or 10 hours. The time required depends on the problem, the way it's presented, on its preparation, etc. There's nothing more important than the meetings of the party. Therefore, no underestimation can be permitted. 2. The party committees of the districts, relying on the basic principles, on the constitution of the party, from now on should decide the structure of basic organizations of the party on their own initiative. The Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the PLA considers it in order to reemphasize that the fundamental rule in the structure of basic organizations of the party is always the uniting of all members of the party who work in an enterprise, agricultural cooperative, institution, etc., in a single basic organization of the party. The essential number for setting up a basic organization is 3 party members. The general meeting of the basic organization is summoned not less than once a month. At the same time, till the coming Congress, until the respective amendments are made to the constitution of the party, the Political Bureau of the Central Committee also advises these preliminary measures. A. The organizations of the party, of sectors and the groups of the party, should be set up wherever such a thing is considered useful, regardless of the total number of communists in the basic organization. In this case, the main concern of the basic organizations and committees of the party should be not how to ensure the necessary number of communists to set them up, but how the forces of the party can be organized most usefully. They must be constructed correctly according to sectors of the work, wherever the communists wage the most active struggle for the implementation of the line of the party, can be set up for more than one unit of production, as for 1, 2, or 3 brigades of a village in the United Cooperatives, etc. Wherever they work, in the sector, detachment, village, etc., the communists, individually or jointly, have the responsibility to see that the work runs smoothly. No matter how many they are, they must think, discuss with one another, and work to determine their common stands. Likewise, they must set in motion the activists who are not party members, consult with them, and organize the carrying out of tasks together with them. The basic organization of the party itself should have the right to set up organizations of the party in the sectors and groups of the party. B. In the big organizations, when this is considered appropriate by the party committee of the district and by its decision, organizations of the party in sectors and detachments can be given all the rights of basic organizations of the party. In these cases, apart from meetings for rendering account and elections, the general meeting of the basic organization should be called when and as frequently as is considered necessary. C. The secretary, assistant secretary, more than one when necessary, or the bureau of the basic organization are elected to lead all the work of the basic organization of the party. In all cases, the basic organization of the party decides this according to the need and the number of members of the party. The bureaucratic work of secretaries and bureaus should be combated. They should establish direct relations with the communists and workers. As a rule, there should no longer be full-time secretaries of the basic organizations. In those cases when the organizations of a sector have the rights of a basic organization of a party, the bureaus of the basic organizations also have the right to examine the decisions on admissions into and expulsions from the party. When these are considered correct, they are sent for approval to the higher organ. D. In special cases, when the enterprises or institutions are very dispersed, with extensive and isolated work sectors, and with a large number of communists, more than one basic organization of the party can be created according to sectors. These must be linked directly with the party committee of the district or the region, or by special decision of the central committee of the party for these organizations. Party committees with the rights of party committees of regions or peasant zones can be created. E. On the basis of the constitution of the party, in production centers or other work centers where there are fewer than 3 party members, groups of the party and youth can be set up. Likewise, where necessary, groups of the party and trade unions can be set up. The members and candidate members of the party and some of the members of the basic organization of the trade unions should take part in them. Such a group should be led by a party member appointed by the party committee of the district, region, or zone. With these guidelines, the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the PLA does not intend to replace one set of forms with another, or to set out a series of forms and methods of work ready for any occasion, or anything which may crop up in practice. If we were to act in that way, instead of achieving the proper aims and further invigorating the life of the party, we would weaken it and make it bureaucratic. We must bear this in mind in all our work. The Party of Labor of Albania is the party of the revolution. Its organizational principles and norms do not constitute an aim in themselves, but serve its revolutionary development to assist the realization of the majestic plans which it drafts for the triumph of socialism and communism. Now the primary task is to enhance the role of the vanguard fighter, to enhance the creative, revolutionary enthusiasm of the communists and the organizations of the party, so that they will lead forward the great movement which has swept all the working people, as they have always done in the past. The Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the PLA thinks that these guidelines will serve this great purpose. Therefore, let us raise even higher the role of the basic organizations as militant centers of our party, as nests to raise true revolutionaries, as great schools to temper the members. First Secretary of the Central Committee of the Party of Labor of Albania, Enver Hoxha, Works, Volume 31. And that is the end of the audiobook. We hope you found it helpful. What do you think? Leave a question or comment below, and we will continue the discussion in the comments section as usual. Thanks for listening, and thanks to the current patrons and Buy Me a Coffee supporters whose names are on the screen. If you'd like to get your name on the screen, head to patreon.com/socialismforall or buymeacoffee.com/socialismforall. Every donation's encouraging, they're also materially helpful, and they've allowed me to spend a lot more time planning, producing, and promoting this content. So if you like this channel, thank me, but also thank a patron and consider becoming one yourself. Beyond that, engagement counts, so like, share, and subscribe. And comments for the algorithm are always appreciated. And remember, we can agitate and educate pretty well in the online space, but organizing happens in real life. Connect with your local left, find out what's going on there, network with other people, and apply what you've learned here in the class struggle in your area. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.